Hey everyone, talking about the top 15 best feminine leaning fragrances. These are just my picks for what I personally like to smell the most. They're all too feminine leaning for the type of fragrances I like to wear, but I love the smell and I would be more than thrilled to smell them regularly if my wife wore these, which she does for some of them. So let's jump right in. These are in no particular order. I just try to choose ones that are kind of different, everything from gourmand to just laid back, sexy date night. Lots of different stuff on here. So first up, Il Tempo Delle by Hilde Soliani. She does such good gourmands. I'm not a big gourmand fan, but the way this one is, so good. It just smells delicious. Like 90s green apple type of candy combined with like cream savors. The creaminess of this is so nice. And there's like a synthetic aspect to it, but it's still really fresh and bright at the same time. And the synthetic part isn't done in a cheap way to me. This reminds me a lot of like a slightly sweeter zoologist cow for those who have tried that one. I think if you really don't like sweet fragrances, I wouldn't try this, but this isn't sweet in a super like high-pitched, astringent, or floral type of way or anything like that. I'm not the biggest fan of sweet ones, but I love smelling this. It sounds like they're in the process of reformulating it, but I'm going to put a link in the description for this and all of them where you can get a sample of the current version or a bottle. So yeah, I could smell this all day. It smells just so good. And I think it could be unisex, but it's definitely more feminine leaning. Next, again in no particular order, Black Jade by Lubin. This has galbanum, bergamot, cardamom, rose, jasmine, incense, cinnamon, Indian sandalwood, patchouli, vanilla, tonka bean, and amber. Really surprised by how enjoyable I find this because one, I don't typically like rose, patchouli, sandalwood, or cinnamon in wearable fragrances. And I also thought this was just going to smell really like stuffy and kind of too dated and old school, but I just think it's beautifully well blended. This is really nice, like garden-esque type of smell, but it doesn't lean too far into the earthy, like soil type of garden. And it also doesn't go too far on the like floral bouquet side. So it's just really, really well balanced. It reminds me of Shalimar, not that it smells like a dupe or anything like that, but that kind of feel of the scent. Like, so if you like that, I would recommend this one. It smells so high quality and like regal, but yet approachable at the same time. I actually think it's pretty more on the unisex side as well, but yeah, that one is excellent. Next up, Delina Exclusif. I like all the Delinas. The La Rose version is kind of like, that one's just okay to me. But I also have a video on my channel comparing the Exclusive, the original, and the La Rose version, if you want to get more of a breakdown between those. But this Exclusive is my favorite. This has notes of bergamot, lychee, pear, grapefruit, petalia, rose, damask, oud, vetiver, incense, ambroxan, vanilla, and musk. And to me, this is like a little more badass than the original, with like kind of a really alluring musk and a lively little smokiness in there. If you're scared of the oud, don't be. I do not like oud in fragrances when it's that strong or anything. This is just like, you might not even guess that there was oud in it. It's just really, really well blended, and that part of it's pretty soft. And it does feel a bit overpriced to me in some senses because it's of how many hundreds of dollars. I think it's like 300 something, and it's not even for 100 mil. I have to double check, but I just do also think it smells such a nice, like really nice and a little bit of like a candyish vibe, but also making it sexy. And I would think this was so attractive to smell on anyone. So just an excellent fragrance, I think, for like a date night type of thing. This would be really, really good. I don't even normally like rose, but the way that's done is just really alluring. Next up, Marc Jacobs Daisy. I know this is considered basic by many. My wife wears this. She says it's basic too, but we both really, really like it. This has notes of violet leaf, violet, grapefruit, strawberry, gardenia, jasmine, woods, musk, and vanilla. This one, don't expect too much projection or longevity, that's for sure. Well, maybe more so on the longevity side, it's not bad, but projection, no way. But that can be a good thing sometimes. You don't always want one that's just going to choke everybody out around you, and sometimes it's not appropriate to wear one like that. This is such a good combination of fresh and sweet to me, and it never goes too far on either side. It definitely doesn't get too fresh in any kind of like shampoo type of way or anything, I think. And on the other hand, it does not get too sweet at all. It's just like really kind of dewy, almost just so nice. And it's really like pleasant smelling. I think anybody would, for the most part, like smelling it on you, but it's also kind of sexy at the same time, or it can be at least. So yeah, despite the basicness of it, I think that one's great. Next up, similar, Marc Jacobs Daisy Oh So Fresh. My wife wears this one as well, so I smell it all the time. And this one is very similar to the original, but a little bit sexier to me and a little bit more projection. Again, sweet and fresh without going too over the top in either direction. And it's also not too in your face, which is nice for everyday wear. That one has notes of raspberry, green notes, pear, lychee, grapefruit, violet, apple blossom, jasmine, plum, musk, rose, and cedar. But it does not smell as floral as that might make you think. Very kind of gentle, but like nice and appealing fragrance. Next up, Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Eau Intense, the one marketed to women. This has notes of lemon, Granny Smith apple, marigold, jasmine, musk, and amberwood. This is fantastic. I had read that it was fairly unisex, and I would echo that. I think anybody could pull it off, but it does lean a little bit more feminine. It's actually really reminiscent to me of the Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Love is Love Pour Homme men's version. This is just like a little bit more floral, where that one has like an ice cream note. But yeah, this is so appealing. Ugh, I would love to smell this regularly. I would say if this was in order, this would be for sure in my top 5 all time. I love smelling it. I just think it's so, just like, I just can't stop smelling it. I'm addicted to it when I smell it, and it's like sexy at the same time. So just, and it's really appropriate for a lot of different types of situations. So excellent one. Next up, Margiela Beach Walk. To me, this smells like walking on a tropical beach after the rain. Really bright floral scent. And to me, it smells jasmine-esque, but not in an indolic way. And I don't even think there's a jasmine note in there, but just that kind of like light, sweet freshness. I'm picky about florals, but this is really like breezy. And it's like strong, but it doesn't feel try-hard, if that makes sense. Just really addictive to smell. I'd love to be around someone wearing this. And there's a lot of fragrance, despite being so into fragrance, there's so many that I would be picky about, like, I don't want to be around someone wearing that. This, please, yes, hang out with me and wear this. I want to get the candle version maybe of this too, because it's just a really, really nice smell. Perfect if you like the idea of some florals, but you don't want something that's that typical, like, cloud of floral, just overdose. Next up, Kilian, get ready for a dumb name. I Don't Need a Prince by My Side to Be a Princess is the name of it. This has lemon, green tea, ginger, peach, hedione, jasmine, apple, marshmallow, vanilla, and benzoin. To me, this smells like a less intense and more subtle version of Love Don't Be Shy, also by Kilian. It's very feminine leaning, more so than some of the ones on this list. All are feminine leaning, but this is definitely like very, very much in that direction. I find it so appealing. It's like sugary sweet, but in a refined way, so it does not feel overly mature. It doesn't get cloying, to me at least. There's like a nice freshness to the sweet side as well, so that one's very, very appealing to smell. Next up, a cheapie and a classic, Britney Spears Fantasy. This is like less than $25 for a full size. The notes are white chocolate, lychee, kiwi, cupcake, musk, orchid, jasmine, woods, orris root, and quince. This is such a good combination of like really pleasantly sweet, but really also so much higher quality than you'd expect from the price, which has been the case with every Britney Fantasy or Curious, whatever flankers that I've smelled. This is like fruity with cupcake vibes, but it never gets over the top cloying, which is not an easy mix to pull off. So many like cupcake note type of scents that I've tried, it's just like, just like smells like a really synthetic fake, you know, overdose of like birthday cake flavor. I'm not saying this doesn't smell synthetic or something, but it smells good. And it also has like a slight tropical feel to it, which I love. It's also really fresh, would work for so many different scenarios. I would love to smell this one all the time. And the fact that it's so cheap, great. I'm not even including that because like, well, this is pretty good for a cheap. Even if this costs $100, I would still think it was really, really good and worth it, honestly. Next up, another one that's often considered basic, Carolina Herrera Good Girl. This has, among other things, tonka bean, cacao, tuberose, jasmine, almond, coffee, vanilla, orris, and sandalwood. I really like this. Has a lot of notes that I normally don't like. Coffee, rose, almond, I'm not a big fan of, tuberose, cacao, cinnamon, patchouli, and even more. But somehow the blend just smells so good to me. The coffee and tonka kind of give it this intriguing edge, and the lighter notes elevate it from smelling too intense or earthy or dark. To me, it smells fairly youthful for the kind of opening and the beginning of the middle phase. Reminds me somewhat of what certain people I knew wore in high school, and I am 34, so that was, almost 15 years ago. But it doesn't smell dated at all. But then it gets a little more mature in the dry down. Would love to smell this all the time if my wife wore it. This is, I've heard other people say this too, oftentimes people who wear feminine leaning fragrances regularly smell this and think, oh, that's basic. But people who don't and who are attracted to women, often when they smell this, or like when I smell this, it smells extremely sexy and appealing. So that's funny how there's that kind of dichotomy there, but it seems to be true for a lot of people that I've talked to. Next up, a more niche one that it rarely gets talked about, Rock and Rouge by the House of Oud. This has almond, tangerine spices, orchid, jasmine, tonka bean, more jasmine, vanilla, musk, and woody notes. This is light, airy, sweet, and powdery. I don't get a lot of tangerine or spice despite those being mentioned, at least not in an outright like spicy way or in like that kind of syrupy, bitter, sweet tangerine way or something. But it smells really nice. It's like has a designer style everyday mass appeal, but with a niche quality. Love the combination when they do that. The vanilla here is incorporated really well. It's never full on in your face, it's never over the top, but it just kind of floats around the edges for this air of kind of intrigue with it. Also, this is really versatile. It could be worn pretty much any season, any time of day or night. I think it's really underrated and deserves more recognition. It is marketed unisex, but to me, this is definitely more stereotypically feminine leaning. Next up, another celeb cheapie, Beyonce Pulse. This has notes of frozen bergamot, pear blossom, blue curacao, bluebird orchid, jasmine peony, precious woods, Madagascar vanilla, and musk. I did not have high hopes for this. I mean, I never do when trying super cheap celebrity fragrances. Not that I think they suck or like they usually smell outright bad, but I'm usually just kind of like, okay, totally forgettable. Like, for example, most of the Katy Perry ones I've tried, not a fan of. Most just every, men's ones, women's ones, masculine, feminine, anything between, unisex, like oftentimes the celeb ones just really don't do it for me. And I didn't even hear that much about this first versus like Fantasy by Britney gets a lot of talk now. But this smells so good. This really stands out as something that would like grab my attention. It almost reminds me of Fantasy by Britney Spears if it had like a splash of orange Fanta instead of cupcake in that one. And like I said, I've been usually unimpressed with stuff in this kind of price range and by celebs, but this smells really appealing. And I could even see this being unisex potentially. So yeah, I went into it expecting it to be forgettable. Sorry, Beyonce, but just most celebs aren't even that involved with their fragrance line, and they tend to be super generic as a result. But I am impressed by this. I would love to smell it regularly. I do think this should be sprayed lightly because it could easily go over the top fast. But all the more reason that's a great deal for how cheap it is to get some bang for your buck. Next up, another Britney one, Sunset Fantasy. This opens with notes from apple, blood grapefruit, and Italian mandarin. Then it comes with raspberry, leaf, orange blossom, and peach in the mid, and a dry down is amber, sandalwood, milk mousse, and vanilla. Oh, this smells so good to me. Like, unlike some of the fantasy flankers, with this one you can smell the fantasy DNA in it. It really does seem to be inspired by the original. I actually think it almost smells even better than the original. And I don't see as much talk about this one, but damn, it's good. It's sweet, fruity, milky, creamy, and definitely smells higher quality than the price point, as with like pretty much all Britney fragrances that I've tried. Really alluring and captivating. I could smell it all day if it lasted that long. And I would be happy to do so if my wife wore it, for example, or if anybody else was wearing it around me. I would love to see Britney come out with some masculine fragrances as well. But yes, this one is so good, and that's my favorite of any of the Britney ones I've tried. Next up, All Saints Sunset Riot. Really nice. This has a Baccarat Rouge type of inspiration and vibe to it, which is like, okay, there's a ton of stuff like that out there, but I think I actually prefer this to Baccarat Rouge and to Cloud, Cloud isn't on my list. I think it's fine, but it just doesn't really do it for me. This is like Baccarat Rouge with dashes of like Kilian, Love Don't Be Shy, and a little bit of Margiela by the Fireplace. I don't think most people necessarily get that out of it from looking at other reviews, but that's certainly what it smells like to me. Really high quality, very appealing. I'm not a rose fan, but the way it's done here is really well blended. If it's even actually there at all, I honestly don't detect any really, but I think they're really saying it more has like a rose-like accord from the pink pepper, but not that they're really using a rose note. Really versatile. This could be used in any weather, day or night, formal or casual, and also a really good deal for the price. It's not as cheap as like the Britney ones or something, but I believe this might be like 75 or 80 for a 100ml full size or something, and it smells like outright niche to me, especially for being a Baccarat Rouge vein type of scent. Really impressed and surprised by that. Did not expect that. Last, and again, these are not in order. This is not best, but this is the probably oldest one. Well, oldest in terms of still being somewhat modern on the list. Victoria's Secret Love Spell. This has peach, cherry blossom, and red apple, lilac, jasmine, and lily of the valley, and in the base, tamarind, musk, and white woods. So this might be partially a nostalgic factor. I remember some of my friends wearing it in high school, and I always just thought it smelled so good. It reminds me a little bit of Midnight Fantasy by Britney, one of the other flankers, which I like. That's not on my top 15, but I do like that one a lot. But yeah, this one, I just think it smells so... I love that combination of kind of sweet and fresh again, and just for the price, excellent. So I will put a link in the description where you can get a bottle or a sample for most. Some of them it might just be a bottle or a sample, but I'll try to put one for kind of both of those options for everything so that you can check stuff out. I don't encourage blind buys, but some of these are so cheap, like the Britney ones and stuff, that why not, I guess. But yeah, I hope that this list provided kind of a diverse amount so that it wasn't just ones that felt like this type of occasion or that. I really tried to kind of include different ones, and if you have different favorite ones that you think I left out, let me know. I have not smelled as many feminine fragrances as I have unisex and masculine, but I've still smelled, at least hundreds or more. So I feel like I was able to kind of really narrow this down, and these are all ones I can confidently say I love smelling and find very attractive. So yeah, let me know what do you love or hate any of these lists? Are you mad I left out Black Orchid? Yeah, let me know.